African Americans should get bereavement leave whenever a black person is killed. That's a bold statement, but that's exactly what Dr. Angel Jones said earlier this week. Dr. Jones is a professor at Southern Illinois University. Is it okay if I assume her gender? Well, she has argued that black workers should get paid time off when someone in the black community is tragically killed, even if they have no direct connection to them. And she has good reasons, too. She argued that black teachers ought to be eligible for, quote, black bereavement leave, because the grief process for the community in the wake of a public tragedy can be tough. The professor said she recently burst into tears when she had to email her students in the wake of Tyre Nichols' death, who was beaten to death in Memphis, allegedly at the hands of 5 black cops. Allegedly? Well, it was on film, so okay. Okay, Tyre Nichols' death was a tragedy. Was it a national tragedy? I'm not so sure, but I feel sympathy for his family and friends. No one should have to go through that kind of a loss. But this professor, she didn't know him. She just felt sad because she had to write an email. She's never met Tyre Nichols, never even heard of him until a few weeks ago. But she is so emotionally distraught that she needs money. Now, I know this may sound a little insensitive. And yes, that's correct. I do not care for her. See, I have a consistent position. I hate racists. This esteemed Dr. Angel Jones is a down-to-the-core racist. I don't say this lightly. Her field of study is the impact of racism on the mental health of black students at historically white institutions. Let's break that down. She studies the impact of racism. Okay, what type of racism? The struggles of Inuit Eskimo tribes versus the Kivalina tribes? Maybe just general racism around the country? No, of course not. Specifically just one group based on skin color. Black students. And where does she focus this study? Inner cities? Auto financing? Mortgages? How about struggles with equal opportunity employment? No, of course not. Only white, historically white institutions. What does that even mean? Now, I was under the impression that it was illegal to refuse employment or any services based on skin color. We got rid of those old Democrat policies decades ago. Now, in fact, if you can prove racism, you can sue. Lawyers will line up to represent you. And you can get paid a significant amount. And let me tell you, if you find actual racism and a black person can prove that they are being discriminated against, I will stand with you and help you win that fight. Just point to who's doing this and we'll go get them. But this professor thinks that black people are either much better or, sadly, much worse than everyone else. Because she's making the claim that all black people need bereavement pay when someone, literally anyone in the community, suffers a tragedy, she's saying that black people are so weak and pathetic that they can't handle bad news or adversity. When a black person hears that another black person was injured or died, she is demanding paid time off to deal with the emotional distress. "Where's our black bereavement leave?" she screams. The professor added that it is black educators who have to, quote, exert additional emotional energy, end quote, and pick up the slack after institutions send an obligatory and often performative statement to the campus community. Oh, so now she's saying that a traditional letter of acknowledgement and support isn't enough for the black community. Listen, tragedies happen. It sucks. And eventually every person on the planet will be affected one way or another by a tragic event. But according to her, black people need to be paid because their pain is so much worse. When I first read this article, I got a little mad, but not the way you think. She's a horrible representative of the black community. She wants to put all black people into a box and label it frail, sad, and pathetic. She's constantly playing the victim card. This is just a grifter. It's a scam. It's just like BLM. They took millions in donations and they just kept the money. It did absolutely nothing for the black community. BLM didn't start any colleges. They didn't invest in housing. They didn't even help a single black person start a small business. They never even paid off George Floyd's old rent. Now, there's another reason that you can see this is just a scam. She demands pay and time off whenever a black person is involved in a tragedy. Well, what about the black-on-black gun violence in Chicago? There are over 50 unfortunate deaths every month. How much time does she need off for those tragedies? Well, perhaps they aren't real tragedies because the police weren't involved. Okay, let's take Tyre Nichols. Still a tragedy. I didn't want him to die. But when a black man is killed, she demands time off. Well, what about the 5 black men that actually killed him? Does she get time off now because 5 black men are going to be locked in prison for the rest of their lives? Do we divide his pain by 5? Can you see how ridiculous this is getting? Let's play this out and see what would happen if her policies get implemented. The next time a black person is in a horrible tragedy, all black people get a day or 2 off and a little paycheck for grievance. Then it happens again, and someone, somewhere, puts it together that you can get paid to create this type of event. So sooner or later, someone needs a little vacation or they come up short on some bills and they just need the money. So they create the event. This is just human nature. When you pay people if a certain thing happens, some people are going to do that thing to get paid. It's not hard to see how this works. Dr. Angel Jones wants to put a policy in place to get paid when black people die. You must realize how this ends. Have you ever heard of a slippery slope? Now, this person is the type of person that is responsible for driving all the hate that is coming. She is a racist and should be condemned completely. Believe it or not, her end goal is complete separation of black and white people. She is way more racist than Scott Adams.
The best advice I would give to white people is to get the hell away from black people. Just get the fuck away.
So do you want to live in a segregated country? If people like this get their way, you will. I mean, you're not going to like it, but you just might get it. So let's talk about it. If you disagree with her policies, let me know. However, if you agree, how much should she be paid every time there's violence in the black community? And heaven forbid, would that increase the violence? Because now you've monetized the violence, so more death, more paychecks? Let's face it, I'm making videos about content that YouTube, quite frankly, hates. So if you made it this far and you appreciate a fresh way of thinking about topics like this, spread it around. Send it to a friend who might need to hear stuff like this. It helps get the message out, and we might be able to prevent some violence in the future. Plus, it's nice when you do that.